Okay, seems to work. Never certain it works when I start those live Q&As because it usually takes time for people to show up. But yeah, I can see the time passing by, so I guess it means it's working. Okay, so just gonna prepare the questions I received. Here, quite a few today. So yeah, quite a few questions. Nice. Of course, I also do those live Q&As so that you can maybe ask in the chat if you have any follow-up questions, or if you are new to the channel and you just come across the live Q&A, then just feel free to ask any questions you have. But I always start with let's say, starter topic you can vote for in my community tab. And you can also post a comment on these posts, and then I just answer the questions. So I think it's a good mix of, let's say, having a program for the video and then it's uploaded. So it's like worth a video in and on itself, but then there is also this live component that adds some interaction possibly. So feel free. This is the fourth live Q&A, I believe, and it's for celebrating 500 subs on the channel. So it's quite a, let's say, a milestone, symbolically, I guess. And I just wanted to have a live Q&A for that. And thankfully, I see there are quite a few questions. So that's good. I see someone joined, but yeah, I'm not gonna wait for, too many people to join anyway before I answer. So let's check what you voted for. Of course, there are two ties. I mean, there's a tie, like two results have the same amount of votes. So, starting YouTube first impressions, and also who's my favorite silver era champ? I don't know. Starting YouTube first impressions, yeah. So that's one of the choices I gave in this vote because 500 subs. I thought maybe it's a good time to reflect a little bit on the journey so far. It's been almost a year that I upload, every year, every week, not every year. Um, yeah, but it's been almost a year. So I start to feel, um, let's say, more and more comfy with sharing content, with, putting myself out in the open, let's say. I start to feel like I get the hang of it, even though um, I always feel like I'm learning something new about uploading on YouTube. There are more complexities than I expected. Um, but so far, I'm pretty glad that, everything I posted, it was always before, um, let's say, because I just wanted to upload it. So it was not like I felt forced to talk about any topic. It was always just what I wanted to talk about. And so far, the comments I received, the fact I got 500 subs, I think it's pretty good. They are, more pros out there that can get thousands of subs in that amount of time, I guess. But I've also seen some channels that upload a lot of videos that get only a handful of views. So I guess I'm not, you know, too unlucky either. Somewhere in the middle, I guess. But yeah, the feedback so far has been very positive on most of my videos. Uh, so yeah, I guess that's my first impressions about starting YouTube. I enjoy it more and more, and now the process is getting, you know, easier for me. At the start, it was the whole technical aspect of things was a bit tough, you know. Managing the software, the audio is often problematic. Um, these kind of things, you know, choosing titles, choosing thumbnails, all of these kind of things. Mm, it's a process. It takes time, and I'm sure I'm gonna keep learning all the time, and it's gonna evolve all the time anyway. So that makes it engaging to me. So that's my first impression so far, and yeah, 500 subs. Thank you all for joining. It's a kind of I don't know how to call it, um, a proof of your interest for my content, and kind of so a gesture of trust for what's gonna come next. So thank you all for that. I really appreciate it, and hopefully it just goes on going very well like this. And yeah, so the other choice was who's my favorite silver era champ, and this one, um, yeah, I was thinking about that one because I'm very split, let's say, about this. I keep coming back to that. Um, I really like Steve Reeves, of course, but I feel like I identify more with his style of training. That's what I was thinking uh, lately. Uh, Whatever he says about training in general, I kind of identify with easily. His philosophy of training, the small details about how his sessions go, well, went, and everything around the philosophy of fitness. I think I'm pretty similar by instinct to all of that. But when it comes to the physique and, let's say, a model that I would wish to get to someday, I think Reg Park would be then my favorite. Probably because Reg was a little bit more, it's not the good word, but bulky in a way. You know, he had more this kind of Herculean physique compared to Steve, who was more like pure aesthetic and proportions. Whereas Reg felt a bit more, yeah, he had more mass. And for example, when you think of Reg, he did have like pretty big traps, right? Whereas Steve is not famous for his traps. At that time, they were actually consciously avoiding training traps most of the time because they didn't want to, they believed, kind of have an imbalance in terms of the visual aspect of things. So, uh, yeah. And Reeves, of course, has this crazy V taper with super narrow waist, and well, I don't have that body type. I would never look like Steve Reeves, and who will, you know? But I feel like Reg Park is still in the realm of achievable, and his morphology is a bit more like mine. I don't compare myself to Park, but the point is that, yeah, I feel more like if I have a bodybuilding model in terms of physique I want to achieve, Reg Park is probably my favorite. Whereas Steve Reeves would be more about the whole approach to bodybuilding. Okay, so that was for the starter topics you could vote for. And then the questions. So there are four of them. I will start with a question from Boho, because it's a good way to transition from Reg and the Silver Era. You made a short a while ago about breathing squats. Is it working for you, and how do you program it? So, yeah, the breathing squats. I started to implement them um, almost 1 year ago, I believe. I think it was January. So, yeah, like end of January. So it's like more like 9 or 10 months. And well, it's been quite a discovery. If you believe you train hard and you've never done something like the breathing squats, then you get a glimpse at what uh, intense workout can be. And so in and on itself, it's already a great implement to a training program. So that's the first thought that comes to mind. And yeah, so the question is it working for you? The answer is yes, I believe so. Um, like in January last year, my chest measurement was around 108 centimeters. So that's in inches. That's something like 42, something like that, I guess, around. And since then, I gained around 2 inches. Yeah, 5 centimeters. I'm like at around 113 now. So, of course, I cannot say for 100% sure that it's only the breathing squats because, I've still been training my pecs and my back. So maybe I also added a little bit of meat there. But I don't think I added so much muscle that it would explain the 5 centimeters jump in the circumference in like 9 months, because I didn't focus that much on my pecs and the back, not even, because I refocused on my back like more than a year ago. So the breathing squat, I believe, is at least part of the explanation for this higher circumstance. Why do I say circumstance? The measurement, circumference. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, so 5 centimeters added. Um, I believe my rib cage looks bigger. According to my girlfriend, she's also believing that. So I think it works. And actually, I'm planning, not for now, but for, I think, January, like end of January, a kind of intense breathing squat program. I'm cutting right now, so I don't want to do it yet. Um, But the point would be actually to benefit from a kind of rebound effect from the cut. And I would try, um, I don't want to spoil too much because I will make a video about it. But all you have to know is that I'm going to try a very intense program I found from Reg Park, and it will involve a lot of breathing squats and a lot of calories probably as well. So yeah, more details about that in an upcoming video in around a month, I guess. So if you're interested, stay tuned. And yeah, the second part of the question was how do you program it? So to be honest, I have programmed it in a very forgiving way so far. That's also why I want to, let's say, go one step further because it's very tough, whenever I do them, I put them at the end of my workout. That's the first thing I would say. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to train afterwards. So, and actually, the whole workout serves a little bit as a big warm up in a way to the breathing squat. So, yeah, that's the first point I would highlight at the end of the workout. And I would do one or two sets, depends on my energy level. I do it very, let's say, intuitively, like intuitive training, because I don't want to force myself doing heavy breathing squats if I just don't feel like. So I do one if I feel very good, if I feel the good groove and a good energy from the training session, then I would maybe do a second one, but not more. And I superset it with the breathing pullover. So 20 reps breathing pullover. And I would do it either once or twice a week. Also depends on the week if I'm well rested. Uh, I have enough time as well for it. So yeah, it's a very taxing exercise, and I just try to keep at least one set a week and up to 4 sets a week. I would say that's been my regimen so far. And yeah, 5 centimeters added to my chest measurement, and I think mostly from the breathing squat actually, supersetted with the dumbbell pullover. So yeah, and then I have the plan to go further. Oh, we have someone in the chat. King Daler. Ah, I remember you. Looking well, thank you. You don't have a profile picture, so I don't know if you're looking well as well, but I certainly hope for. Thank you for joining, and yeah, thank you for being part of the 500 subs. If you have a question, don't hesitate to put it in the chat. I don't think you left one in the comments. I've heard that deep squats and pullovers are good supersets, so no wonder it worked your chest. Yeah. If you have only heard about it and you haven't researched the topic, I really encourage you to do so. It's it's been a staple for most of the big naturals, of the silver era. So it's a good technique for a natural. If you are a natural lifter as well and you want to get big, it's probably a good lead to follow. That's my reasoning. That's why I started to try it. I fell in love with it because you once you do it once, there's no turning back. And I call them the doom squats actually, because it really feels like a little bit daunting when you are going to do it, and you really feel you put your body under you know the heaviest stress you can. So yeah, it makes you grow. I wonder what's the effect or so besides the rib cage and the chest measurement, but the overall growth of the body. I would be quite curious to know uh, what part it has played in my other, uh, let's say, growth areas, that's tough to say. But for sure, yeah, it's, if anything, it teaches you intensity and grinding. So that's also a very good thing. Yeah. And yeah, I guess you didn't join by then, but as I said, in 1 month I will make a video about the breathing squat, and like a special program I'm gonna try, very intense. So stay tuned. What are your thoughts on isometric training? It has a place, definitely. Um, like, I think the best in the gym is always to add as much variety as you can, and to periodize things as well. For the most part, though, I wouldn't say that your whole training should be, well, the majority of your training should be based on isometric. Isometric is more useful when you start, or for rehab for the tendons. It's very good. But when I think of some lackluster programs, especially for some muscle groups like the abs, uh, it's because there is too much isometrics. Um, Look at the way people train their abs. It's usually not a lot of, like bending and extending the muscle. It's a lot of planks. It's a lot of actually like sit ups and even leg raises where the abs don't move. It's like more like the hips. And you do have an isometric contraction of the abs, which can make you believe you work them hard, but you know it's not the same as having a concentric and an eccentric. Sorry. So yeah, I think I would incorporate some, but depends on your level. Yeah, mostly the level, I would say. I can't really think of. I was about to say many other exercises where it would be that useful, but in a way, when you think about a very heavy stretch, like weighted stretch, like for the farmer's walk, or some form of rack pull or power shrug, um, you can also incorporate that aspect in that, and it works pretty good. But it's because you put a lot of load and there's the heavy stretch. So, but what I mean here is that you don't have to also just be always obsessed about having a clear, big range of motion and concentric and eccentric. A lot of things can work. But yeah, that's my first thought about the isometric. Thanks for answering. I agree, it's good to try different things out. I don't see why isometrics can't have a place. Yeah, definitely. My first rule at the gym is to enjoy your training. That's that's my first rule. So if you enjoy isometrics, if it brings a little bit of salt, let's say, to your program, um, maybe it's a little bit more gentle than what you used to do, for instance. I don't know what kind of exercise variation we may talk about now, but it's like the whole focus that there's been lately about stretch mediated hypertrophy and lengthened partials and all of that. It's nice, but okay, but if you only do that, then you start to lose something, right? And when you overdo something, it usually becomes not so good anymore. So it's good to have variety, to try to train your body in as many different ways as possible. I think it's very valuable. So if you can see a place for isometrics in your program, I see really no problem with that. I agree, many do planks for abs, but that to me just isn't enough. One really needs to work the abs to get good abs, not just isometrics. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Too many abs variations are actually based on the isometrics. There are even people who are going to tell you that, and it's true, you do get some abs from heavy deadlift, heavy, posterior chain work as well, because you have to brace, you have the contraction. But I don't think you're going to get the best results you can have without incorporating some form of bending of the abs, because yeah, one role of the abs is to make you be able to brace and so have this contraction, but it's also to bring the upper part of your torso down, and also vice versa. Yeah, so it's good also to train that function. And my recommendation for abs in general would be some form of uh, heavy, let's say, not heavy, that's not the word here, but like a good amount of decline angle, and do a sit up, but really focus on bending, like rolling your belly, uh, instead of just like staying straight, contracting the abs, and just, like do this kind of motion, because then it's mostly your hips. Same thing with the leg raise. Most people just lift their legs like straight, and it's mostly the hips. But if you focus on the bending of the abs and rolling inward your belly, so you would get good results from that. And actually, I made a short and even a long video about it. If you want to go check it, it was like 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, and I was mentioning how even though I've been hovering between 15 to 20% body fat, my abs were still visible, because if you, let's say, train them properly and you don't even need a lot of volume, they they do show up. Also, there's also a genetic component to it, um, so it might not be true for everybody, but yeah. What are your thoughts on a program called super slow training? The idea of really slow repetitions. Um, I would say, yeah, it's interesting. It can be fun, but it's, at the end of the day, it's an intensity technique. It's just a way for you to uh, get more out of less weight. So it makes more sense to me for advanced lifters or intermediates, even though, depending on the lifter, it can also make sense for a beginner to make sure the technique is under control. But yeah, the point is just to have, time under tension. And when it comes to hypertrophy science, time under tension, there is not a lot of backing for it, if I'm not mistaken. Um, so I wouldn't say, the way I see tempo in general, the amount of time you put for a rep, it's mostly a matter of intensity technique. Can be useful for some lifts where uh, the weight jump is not practical for you. Let me think of one. A typical one would be the lateral raise. You know, just adding 2 kilos to your lateral raise can take quite a lot of time. You can do like maybe 10 reps with a certain weight, and then you put like the next weight on the stack, and you don't even manage to get 2 or 3 clean ones. It's just too hard. So that's one case, for instance, where doing consciously slower reps with the weight you already manage can add some intensity and help you keep progressing. But I wouldn't apply it to every lift and every training period, let's say. Most of the time, I think um, there's not a lot of overarching principle that you can apply to every lift and every lifter as well. So we are back to what we said like 5 minutes ago about isometrics. Everything can have its place. I don't believe in the magic pill or the magic technique or the magic formula or whatever in lifting. The magic comes from enjoying what you do, so you're gonna stick to it. You're gonna see results, so you're gonna stick even more to it. And you get then with the time you get to know your body, what works the best or not, and that's where the magic happens. But when it comes to techniques, you know, out of context, out of let's say a mindset of trying things out and maybe having a diverse amount of tools. Yeah, I don't believe in it. I think when you have only a single lens in lifting, it's problematic. I appreciate your answer. You have good knowledge. Thanks. May I ask, are you still reading Nietzsche? Yeah, I see. Write another question below, so I will answer to you now about Nietzsche. It's been a while I haven't read Nietzsche because, I've been a very avid reader of Nietzsche for a long time. Like, I read basically all of his books and books about his books. But that was like, hmm, almost 10 years ago. Well, 10 years ago. And probably the last book I read from a philosopher talking about Nietzsche and analyzing his work was probably like almost 5 years ago, I believe. So, I can discuss Nietzsche probably from memory because of reading him for quite a few years. No problem with that, I guess. But maybe it will take me some time to just, get my brain start working. Enjoying what you do, I agree. I think so many people get too caught up with this idea of the best technique, this whole HIT versus volume training, etc. Just do what works and what you enjoy. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Um, that's that's a big shame. That's a message I hope I can spread with the channel. That's one of the main messages I hope to be able to spread, because when you think mostly of beginners, I guess it can be a problem for them, this topic. And I can understand why. When you begin, you are quite afraid of hurting yourself. So that's already a kind of mindset that doesn't put you in a very available state of mind for pure enjoyment of the gym. It can be a little bit daunting, all those weights and stuff, when you first start. So it's easy to get caught up in influencer fitness and trying to find the optimal exercises and stuff like that, so that you don't waste your time on the suboptimal ones or the ones that are dangerous, like the upright row and the behind the neck press and the pullovers, the deep pullovers, basically most of my favorite exercises. And yeah, that's a big problem, I think, because probably all of the guys who are too focused on that from the start and maybe never learn how to just enjoy the gym, like, like a game. Don't be too obsessed with the result, but learn how to enjoy really the effort and the process of discovering by themselves. That's something I can see is often lacking, and it's probably a main difference between someone who's going to stick to the gym or someone who's going to become passionate about the gym. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. And for me, the value of fitness influencers, me included, even though it's a bit funny for me to include myself in this umbrella term of fitness influencer, but I guess I am, since I'm posting content about fitness. Uh, for me, the value of it is, sourcing ideas, like brainstorming. It's about, oh, this guy is doing that, he's doing it that way, he has tried that and he had those results, okay, maybe I try. But it doesn't go much beyond that. For me, fitness is mostly a self-discovery process, and that's one of the main beauties of it. I believe is that, especially if you stay natural. That's also why I'm against any form of PD. I believe it's really something that can be your own, and that nobody can have. Like, you cannot steal it, you cannot buy it. If you are a natural lifter who get jacked, you cannot buy that. If you take steroids, you buy it in a way, quite literally. You have to buy it. Um, but if you don't, and you really learn how to perfect your program and how to, you know, lift with your body as well as against your body, it's a very nice alchemy there. Um, it's really something that you can call your own. Nobody has given it to you. Nobody has sold it to you, and that's a big part of why I like it as well. I think quite unconsciously, of course. It's because now my ideas are running. I don't think about all that when I go to the gym, but it does cross my mind. Speaking of Nietzsche and the concept of time, I have to ask you, which is probably a silly question, but does the past exist if you don't think about it? That's a very interesting question, because Nietzsche is not much of a thinker of time. When I think of Nietzsche, it's not like he has most of his ideas are related to abstract notions like time. So I'm a bit interested for about why you asked that. Why Nietzsche and time? But the question you ask, does the past exist if you don't think about it? Maybe you read an aphorism from him, or maybe a bigger chunk of text. Anyway, tell me in the comments. I'm interested. But if it's about his vision of time, and if he thinks the past exists if we don't think about it, I can't remember him saying yes or no to that question. What is certain is that he's very much focused on the present and the future. When you think about his way of, understanding the world, uh, of course, he called himself how can I say in English? Inactuel. Because actual in English wouldn't be the same, right? He was a very non-current philosopher, so he really saw himself as, let's say, out of his present time. But when it comes to this notion of time itself as a kind of abstract thing, I don't recall him talking about it. However, I do enjoy this kind of question a lot myself, and it's very linked with another form of philosophy that I enjoy a lot, which is Zen Buddhism. According to Zen, yes, there is no such thing as the past or the future. Uh, it's only the notion we have of it that makes it exist. So it does exist, but it's only a concept in our mind. There's a beautiful, beautiful metaphor I really love from Alan Watts, and he uses it to, make us see that we are not the result of our past unless we insist on it. What we think about things can make them real in a sense because it's real in our mind, sorry, and then it makes us act accordingly, and so it actualizes the thing. But yeah, the metaphor is that it's not the wake of the ship that moves the ship forward. So tell me if I'm wrong, if it's the wake of the ship. Basically, all the waves behind it, it can make it seem visually like it's propelling the ship, but it's not. It's only a trace of its path on the water. It doesn't move the ship. So that's an answer to your question. So not from Nietzsche, but if you want to know my opinion about it, that would be it. Yes, I don't really believe in the past outside it being a concept, something recreate, basically. Thanks for answering, brother. I agree, the past may exist, but only as a concept, not as a real reality. I apologize for the random questions. I believe Schopenhauer spoke more of time than Nietzsche. That's very likely, yeah. Because also Schopenhauer was one of those philosophers who got interested in Buddhism, let's say, pretty extensively. So it would be surprising that you read more of that in Schopenhauer. Yeah, that's something I really enjoy when, comparing the Western philosophers and the Eastern philosophy, is that we sometimes come to the same conclusion, but our understanding of that conclusion is actually completely opposite. You look at the Zen Buddhism, understanding of time and meaning and all these kind of things, and basically they come to the same conclusion as the philosophers of the 19th and 20th century, the absurd. you know there is no meaning to the universe. They talk a lot about the void and things like that. And for them, in the Eastern traditions, this is actually a positive thing because it's basically the emptiness is actually a room to welcome things to happen and, for creation to happen, for freedom to happen. But when you come to the same conclusion in the West, most of the time, I'm not saying that it's like all philosophers and such, but by and large, the way we understand even just the word absurd in the Western world is much more of a disappointment, um, even scary, the lack of meaning. If you say, you can talk, kind of like what we do now, like casually to people in the West, and you tell them that life has no meaning and there is no such thing as time, it's only a concept in your mind. One of the first reactions is that, oh, but then life has no meaning, so what's the point of it? What's the point of living? So And that's also quite the reaction of Schopenhauer. He ended up being this kind of sour old man because of his realization of the absurd. But the stance towards the same conclusion in Buddhism is completely opposite. It's a place of welcoming uh, potential from the universe. Okay, so that's the same comment. But yeah, thank you very much for those philosophical questions, King Dale Clark. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I will call you King because you were asking questions about Nietzsche, philosophy, so you deserve that nickname from now on, Mr. King. So, yeah, if you have other questions, don't hesitate. I'm gonna move on to the other ones from the post. I already answered that one. What's your favorite area to train, like chest or biceps and so on? So, yeah, this one is a tough one. I love to train a lot of body parts. I don't mean anything weird by that, by the way. um, I would say it can be more exercise dependent than muscle group dependent. For instance, I really like the power shrugs, things like that. Uh, I kind of look forward to it, even though it's hard. But do I love training upper traps in general? I wouldn't specifically say so. It's a bit the same about biceps. I remember at some point, I basically have some periods like that where I like to focus on the muscle, and it's very enjoyable for me to do it. And I feel a kind of itch in the muscle, like I want to destroy it today. I want to really pump it. And I had that quite a few times with biceps, like with the easy bar curl. I remember for like 2 weeks each session, I wanted to just rush in the gym, pick the heaviest easy bar curl I could, and just curl the shit out of it, and feel this stretch and squeeze and the pump. Yeah, that's one of the beauties of the gym. This kind of excitement and enjoyment from the session. Yeah, and then yeah, the this phase with the easy bar actually ended up with me realizing I should go easy because at some point, yeah, I was progressively overloading it, and I ended up using like I think my last set was like 50 kilos on the bar, like so 60 kilos total, which is quite good, I think, yeah, for curling. And that's when I started to realize I have consistently some pain here when I curl. And that's how I discovered I have a valgus elbow. And basically from there on, I started to incorporate more, let's say, uh, one arm exercises, try to kind of go around that. But yeah, curling feels nice. Do I love training biceps in general? It's arguable. When I do incline curls, I think it's very good exercise, but it's painful. I mean, not painful like in the joints, uh, but it's like it's almost like the breathing squat to me, or the power shrug, the incline curl. It's like, I don't know, the pain you get from grinding the incline curl is, yeah, it's quite surprising, but I kind of always leave a little bit of time of rest before and after it, because somehow it's more taxing on me, like, yeah, compared to other big lifts. So yeah, I would say it's more exercise dependent, even though, yeah, there's a pattern for me. I would say I tend to basically enjoy more pulling movements. I think my morphology is more suited to pulls, because when I think of those exercises I enjoy, it's usually about the biceps, the back. I really like enjoying my training my back. It's quite tough for me, for instance, to um, end the training session for the back, or including the back, and or even not including the back. By the way, it already happened, and not doing some pull-ups. I just really like doing pull-ups. Um, so yeah. Whereas when it comes to pressing movements, so anything including the triceps, the pecs, the delts, um, yeah, I enjoy it, but it's not like the same feeling. It's not the same. I don't know. It's hard to explain, right? I just feel like it's harder for me, the pressing movements in general, and I was more built to pull. Yeah, actually, in English, I think pulling can have a secondary meaning. Yeah, I was made to pull, like pulling left and right, up and down. uh, Thanks for answering my questions today. I appreciate your knowledge. Thank you, King. I also enjoyed the inclined dumbbell curls. You really feel the stretch. I think it's one of the most effective movements. Yeah, it's been used by almost all the most successful natural lifters from nowadays and from before. You know, don't know if you've seen my latest videos about Steve Reeves and Reg Park, but they both had the incline curl as their go-to biceps movement, and actually the incline curl was even Steve Reeves' favorite exercise. Like any kind of muscle group you could think of. He said that his favorite exercise, just he could choose from any other, was the incline curl. So there's something to it, right? Nowadays, I know that um, who has used it quite a lot. GVS is quite a big fan of it as well. In my case, I included it because since you have this stretch, and you know you you can work a little bit more, also a little bit more emphasis on the outer portion of the biceps. So supposedly it's gonna help with the peak. And since I have a short biceps, I think it's pretty good for me to emphasize the peak if I can. Even though, of course, your whole biceps work in any kind of biceps exercise you will do, it's about having a slight bias, and if you compound a slight bias for weeks and months and years, then I think you can see a slight difference, I guess. But I'm here for the long game, so for me it's not a problem to, let's say, wait a few years to see those results, for sure. you know by the way, King, You say that you enjoyed the incline curl. What are your other favorite biceps exercises? Can tell me while I answer the other questions. Yeah, back to this question about the favorite area to train. I guess it should be more of an exercise one, and I guess I will make a video, like a long form video about my favorite exercises, because we were talking about the breathing squat at the beginning of this live, and I wouldn't say training um, quads or legs in general are like my favorites, but I really enjoyed the breathing squat because it just feels so effective. So that's a big part of the enjoyment. So yeah, I like easy bar curls, brother. Yeah, me too. I wish I could perform them, you know, on a frequent basis, but when I was doing it with once I started to put 40, 50 kilos on the bar, it was just really too painful here, and it was hindering my other exercises. So I just decided to switch more to dumbbell work, cable work as well. I was doing the Bayesian curls on the yeah. The cat is waking up. Beware. Uh, what was I saying? Yeah, the cable Bayesian curls, and yeah, it served me well for a while. But once you progress, there's too much weight, and it starts to get impractical to just be in position and bring the weight and curl it. So it's one of those movements that serve you well for a while, and then you have to be able to say goodbye or use them more as a warm up or a finisher, but not like your bread and butter. And now my bread and butter is actually the just the good old hammer curl, and I used also the arm blaster. I made a video about it recently. If you want to go check it, very useful if you have a valgus, but you want to have like preacher curl like stability, and having basically your elbows locked so you don't cheat, and especially if you do it uh, like with a back support. So I do the arm blaster usually with the cable station just against my back, so it's really like no cheating, and yeah, it works really well. May I ask, in your opinion, who had a better physique in their prime, Franco Columbo or Arnold? If you can pick one. Yeah, that's a tough one. Franco was amazing. I mean, his upper pack is like out of this world, right? And his whole physique, you could argue that Arnold had weaknesses um, that were more visible, at least maybe not in his let's say 73 years. Uh, I mean, 1973, if I believe, was his peak, right? Or 74. And before that, for instance, he had, like, of course, the calves situation. Um, when I just think of Franco, I just see in my mind, I see less weaknesses, actually. You could say, yeah, he was shorter, so it's supposed to help, right? You have less real estate to fill, so you can look more dense. And that's the thing that comes to mind when I think of Columbo is the density of his muscles. When it comes to the aesthetics, it's subjective. Um, for me, it's too hard. This one actually, it's yeah. When it comes to you know Mr. Olympias and professional bodybuilders, I think these guys just had the best outcome um, of what it is to be a bodybuilder and take PEDs. I don't like the physiques that come afterwards. Actually, I would say most people say like the mass monster era is like from Dorian. Yeah, actually, yeah. I would say that from then, I think the physiques were just too big and were starting to be too disproportionate. And basically, yeah, those two that you chose there, along with some others, are like the pinnacle in my mind. But yeah, since I'm, let's say, very pro natural bodybuilding, I would still put uh, someone like Reg Park and Steve Reeves above in terms of my preferences, you know, because I know that the results are purely from their work. And whenever there are PDs involved, yes, of course, Arnold and Columbu, they had also they were working like crazy at the gym, and they had the genetics and all, but you can't help to wonder how would they look like without the PEDs, right? We will never know because when they even started lifting, it was already available. So I like the Amakurs too. I like training the forearms. Matter of fact. I actually do them also with fat grips, so it's even more forearm biased. Thanks for answering. I agree. Franco, I'm not an expert, but I believe he was known for his amazing upper chest. Yeah. Definition and back, and just definition in general, while Arnold was obviously bigger. Yeah. When you think of their peak, um, I think Arnold always looked a little bit softer than him, but he had this kind of charisma as well. Um, at the end of the day, yeah, between those two, I would say it's just a matter of it's really subjective, right? But when it comes to training, I think as far as I know, they had very similar training. They were best buddies, right? So they probably trained very similarly. Um, Most of what I dig and research is Silver Era methods because then I just assume that at least we are certain they work for naturals, and I think many things can work, even the very high volume craziness of the golden era can work. But still, I would rather stick to what is proven to work for natural. Okay, if you have other questions, don't hesitate. I'm still here. I'm not too tired, even though I was doing the breathing squat earlier today. So I was actually a bit afraid of this live Q&A. I thought I'm gonna probably fall asleep during it, but yeah, it's going well. Uh, Next question, yeah. But first, I see you answered something else. Thanks for your time. Will you live stream again soon? Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think roughly like once a month. I feel it's a pretty good frequency. It's a nice change of pace, compared to recording a video and editing and all these kind of things. Um, I like the this interaction aspect of things. So maybe the next one, I don't know, maybe a New Year live stream, but so it wouldn't be in a month, but like in 3 weeks. So something like that, I guess. Yeah. Usually I do on Tuesdays. My uploads. I try to keep like a fixed date, so I know this day is dedicated to uploading something on YouTube. It helps me with the discipline. It's just like a gym program. When you have a program compared to someone who doesn't log and doesn't have a program, you can progress better. So I try to stick to Tuesday on YouTube. Uh, so it might be the first Tuesday of January, the next live stream, maybe. Aline, oh, good and interesting stream. Thank you. May I ask, what do you think I'd better do, I guess, for cardiovascular conditioning? An hour long jog or high intensity interval training? Hmm. It's, yeah, it depends on your gym program. So, how many days a week do you train at the gym? How intensely do you train at the gym? Um, yeah, basically your volume, your intensity, your frequency, and how much do you eat compared to that. And once I know that, I could say what you can afford in terms of cardiovascular training, I would say. Because obviously, you know, if you train a lot intensely, and let's say you are someone who has troubles eating enough, which can happen quite often, adding the stress of intense cardio can be too much. So yeah, just give me some insight about that, and I would give you my opinion. And in the meantime, I will answer the next question. What are your thoughts on Lyle McDonald? Since that's where I found you, lol. So that's a question from I Love Cookies. Thank you, Mr. Cookies, for the several questions, by the way. Very much appreciate it. If you watch this video later, I guess you're eating cookies right now. That's why you're not on the live stream, I guess. So, yeah, my thoughts on Lyle McDonald. That's where you found me. I'm not sure how to understand that. I'm pretty sure you didn't mention me. So, I guess I commented on a video, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Uh, I don't remember. But let's say I commented. It doesn't change anything, right? So, what's my opinion about Lyle McDonald? To be honest, I didn't like delve really deep in his content. Is it delve, by the way? Dive? I'm losing my English. I guess I'm starting to get tired. Yeah. Um, yeah, like I didn't watch many of his videos, maybe one or two. I guess I watched a handful of Solomon Nelson videos, like most people, I mostly discovered them like recently, actually. Mm, I was aware of them, you know, before the whole controversy about Mr. Mike. Uh, and I watched probably a handful of videos, yeah, before that. And he didn't upload much since then, Solomon Nelson, but I did watch a little bit. And, so I don't feel I have a very valuable opinion to share that would be, um, let's say, honest in terms of the value of my opinion, since I haven't watched that much content from him. So, but I'm gonna give you my opinion anyway. But just be aware that it's the opinion of someone who doesn't know much about him. What I know is that it was probably one of the, if not the first, let's say, science-based fitness influencer, or at least among the first. And that, long story short, is being maybe both because of his, I don't know, his style of um, rejecting bullshit, and maybe the more socially effective capabilities of his enemies, let's call them like that. Uh, yeah, said enemies became uh, very big channels with millions of subscribers, and he didn't. And when you check the content, it's pretty clear he has um, a much better grasp, and I would say more honest and more qualitative input to share than the people who criticize him. And yeah, that's my first thought about the guy. That it looks like, he's being quite of being pushed aside by this science-based mafia, basically. Let's call it that, because that's more or less how it works. At least it's, you can say it's a big business, right? It's working like a big family business. Of course, maybe some guys are a little bit more friends with each other than others, but they have the same kind of bread, and they need to protect it all together. So yeah, and from what I've seen in terms of his content, I didn't see much that really struck me as um, anything controversial that is not just common sense. Whereas Mr. Mike and other guys like that, I think they have plenty of that. So yeah, I think he has a great merit for calling out the bullshit from these people. And it looks like he was one of the first, maybe the first, in the, let's say, in the years where he was probably alone doing that. As far as I understand, I was not active in the fitness community like 10 years ago. So yeah, I can't really, let's say, give a very in-depth analysis of the thing. But yeah, he certainly looks like a more genuine and knowledgeable source of information than the whole science-based crew altogether, I would say. From the little I've seen, and that's when you think about it, that's something to say, right? You don't need to watch much to see something like that, right? So yeah, that's the first thought that comes to mind. When it comes to maybe the negative, because I see now I've been only positive, it does seem to be mm, inflexible, right, in his approach, um, which is a yellow flag, let's say. Um, but yeah, it's a typical yellow flag from someone with many years of experience. It can be tough to have a lot of experience in a field and not feel like you are more entitled to to share your opinion and just assume that you know more than others who have much less experience than you. So it's understandable, but it's still something I usually don't like to see personally. Um, I believe in the value of always leaving some room for, you know, self doubt and acknowledging that we don't know everything and we can learn always from a beginner, actually. I'm not sure, maybe he is like that. Maybe he's not dogmatic and that's just an impression I had. But like I said, I haven't seen enough content. But yeah, if you are still there, King, this reminds me an anecdote from Diogenes. The philosopher who used to live in how would you call that in English? L'enfort. Mm, I have no idea how to say that in English. Let me check. Amphora. Let's just see. Une amphore. I was right. Amphora. Okay. So yeah, and he had no possessions except for a bowl to get some water and drink. And one day he saw a kid drinking water from the fountain with his hands. And Diogenes realized, damn, I've just been beaten by a kid. So I think, however long your experience is in a field, always be open to learn, um, even from the people who have much less experience than you, because sometimes they take shortcuts, for instance, that you would not think about because maybe, yeah, you are too much in the field to have a fresh beginner's mind with like a zoomed out vision of the thing. But again, I don't know if I'm being accurate now about this first impression about him. My as a summary, my overall impression is, I would say, really good, and I would much rather see guys like him being the big fitness influencers than you know Mr. Mike and Jeff Nippard and these kind of guys. There's this thing about Lyle McDonald that I like quite a lot. I realize now I didn't mention it, but he has this kind of old YouTube style of channel, with his computer camera, um, bad mic, no pun intended. um, and actually, I'm seeing myself now on the screen, and that's quite similar. And I just prefer this kind of authentic approach to it rather than the big business perfect not technique, but how would you say, like the technical aspect of recording videos, like having a whole team of you know uh, graphists and yeah, very very perfect footage, like crystal clear images. It's too clean, and usually when it's too clean on the surface, people are like that usually as well. It's not just about how a video looks like. People work the same usually. When something looks too clean on the outside, maybe there is something in the depth that you wouldn't like to see, right? Anyways, mm, gonna switch to the other question. Gonna check if there's another. Yeah, another one from I Love Cookies. Are you still eating cookies instead of taking part to this live stream? So, yeah, any advice for female lifters and bodybuilders? Hmm. Any advice for them? I would have to know what's their goal with bodybuilding and lifting. I'm gonna assume it's not to become pro bodybuilders, like doing those shows and basically their body looks like Ronnie Coleman. I'm gonna assume that's not what you meant here, but more like taking lifting and bodybuilding as a physical activity instead of another. And yeah, but so my first advice would be redundant since it would be the objective, but yeah, the first one would be that have a health oriented goal first. Yeah, actually uh, it's still a good advice, because just like for guys, it can be a lot about vanity and just the visual aspect of things. And it's arguable, of course, but I would say my gut feeling about it is that the physical visual improvement that you can get at the gym as a woman is probably less impactful than what it could be for men. What do I mean here is that, you know, quite a lot of men like girls with, let's say, shapes. Let's call them like that. Like thick stuff. um, so they wouldn't actually mind if a girl is not quite in shape. It's a blanket statement, I know, but I think If you search your memories, I'm searching mine right now. Um, it's not too rare of a thing. Now, girls that would look at a guy who is very skinny or very obese and say, "Oh, that's hot." Hmm. But yeah, now I'm just being, I'm just brainstorming actually. I'm just brainstorming. So it may sound a little bit too black and white, too cliche, but that's my first impression. Mm, and that would be, yeah, my first advice is that have health first and foremost as a goal. And when it comes to what it can bring you visually, you may not need as much as you think uh, to, be attractive. If that's why you go to the gym, be attractive to men, for instance. Uh, Again, blanket statement, but I think you can agree, dear viewer, that in general, um, girls can tend to become more obsessed about their appearance and feel bad about it than men. But it can be arguable once we go in the gym world because maybe, and also when it comes to the generations, it seems that more and more men are also now victim to it with the physique inflation on social media and such things. So maybe it's, let's say, the same now. I'm not certain. But yeah, I'm just going to assume that there might be too much of an emphasis on, you know, just, having a nice booty. When you look at the way some girls train at the gym, uh, it's often that kind of stereotype. It's like some, I don't know, 1 hour of cardio and hip thrust. So when you see that kind of very minimalistic program, you understand that it's not maybe so much about health than it is about the looks. And I think, yeah, in that case, that would be my first advice. I think it would be quite a shame not to train first for health. Um, just one example among others, women are more, prone to osteoporosis. So obviously, strength training is very beneficial for them to reinforce the bones. But resistance training in general, building some muscle, is just as useful to them as it is to us, men. They're gonna improve their metabolic health and insulin uh, resistance profile, for instance, among other things. Psychologically, the same benefits, the pleasure to progress in something, to feel stronger, to feel more capable, to maybe resolve a back pain thanks to training, reinforcing the back. These are all things we have in common and that they can benefit as well. So there seems to be more interest about lifting from women nowadays. And yeah, it's a good thing, I believe, as long as it doesn't become, like they don't fall for the PED trap, just like men. And actually impoverish their health, just like not most, but many men do at the gym. So yeah, that would be my first advice, which is a more like general mindset kind of advice. Um, but then if you want more advice, like say, hmm, the differences between men and women and how it translates maybe in the program or things like that. Um, yeah, I think a lot of things can be in common, but there are some small differences that should be taken into account to optimize. For instance, I know that women are more um, they are more type 1 fiber dominant generally. So their muscle fibers are more, let's say, suited for endurance work, and the type 1 fibers are the ones, as you don't if you don't know it, uh, on the contrary of the type 2a fibers, they are the ones that are less prone to hypertrophy, so but better suited for endurance, which also doesn't mean it's not strong muscle. They can be very strong with type 1 fibers. It's not so much about that. It's more like, yeah, the hypertrophy potential. So, and yeah, this endurance aspect of things. So I would probably program more of higher rep sets, for instance, would make a little bit more sense, because lower rep, very heavy weight, it's going to be more for the type 2 fibers. So it may be not where they can, um, let's say, feel the more comfortable and see the best progress. But I would still incorporate um, some heavy stuff for the benefits I just mentioned. But when it comes to, let's say, the bread and butter, I wouldn't maybe stick to very low reps, like 5 to 8, for instance, but maybe more 8 to 12 or 15. And yeah, that would be one, one aspect, one difference. Of course, taking into account the cycle as well. Mm, I don't mean the steroid cycle, hopefully. I mean the menstrual cycle. Um, as far as I know, uh, they produce more estrogen after their period for like 2 weeks. And estrogen is good for recovery. Is Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's anti-catabolic, so could make sense also to take that into account and mm, have a like small periodization of more strength focus work just after their period for like 2 weeks, for instance, because then they have a better ability to recover. But I would be careful with that because, as you probably know as well, each woman has their own little, um, personal, um, how could I call it? They all have their own style of cycle, right? They are all more or less different when it comes to that. So the hormonal responses and psychological aspect of all of that can be quite different from one woman to another, even the opposite sometimes, some cases. So in that case, I would say to a woman, if she doesn't know it yet, to know her cycle. How does she work? To analyze how she reacts and uh, what's her energy level and her psychological state depending on the month, where she is in the month, where she is in the cycle, and try to be strategic about her training around that. Yeah, that would be probably the biggest difference. But then, yeah, I would say besides that, maybe not that much difference. Mm, I think they would benefit from working their whole body as well. Of course, when it comes to the aesthetics, you would program differently different body parts that are more, um, you know, dimorphic. So the what's the word in English? Like the characteristics of each sex. Usually we, as men, for instance, we want to emphasize the broad shoulders, of course, and women would be more like having this kind of shape and larger hips. But this you would have to see with her. What's her goal? So yeah, that's all I can think about for now. Yeah, probably leaving some stuff on the table here. Um, but if you want to follow up, Mr. Cookies, if you think this is enough or not, or there are some other aspects you meant with that question, don't hesitate to leave a comment down below, because this is going to be uploaded on the channel automatically after the end of the live. So don't hesitate. Let's see in the chat if there are more questions. I ask you, what do you think? So no, that's still the same question from King. I guess he left or disconnected. So the question about cardio. Yeah. Well, I will just give you my general view about it, and you can rewatch it, just like I said for Mr. Cookies. You can watch the answer once it's uploaded on the channel. But the general rule is that cardio past a certain level of intensity, it's a stressor. So, if you're on a cut and you're training hard at the gym, I would be careful with cardio. I would probably stick to walking as much as I can. Buying a walking pad can be a very sound strategy in that case. But let's say it's a matter of having many different elements and just how the whole picture looks like. If you are a young guy, full of energy, you are very resilient, you have very good joints, very good recovery, and kind of miracle. You are young, but you don't party, you don't drink, you eat well, healthy food. Um, you're on a caloric surplus. You you don't train every day, maybe 3 times full body per week, then you could have like 2 or 3 days of jogging, maybe even hit. The way I would approach it, the way I was doing it um, most of the time. Now I'm not doing much cardio, which is something I will have to reincorporate. Um, but the way I approach it, I like to do it that way. I like to go for a long jog, like, well, long, not that long, but let's say 45 minutes, which is pretty standard. In the zone 2, zone 3, and then just finish with like, uh, like 2 or 3 minutes of sprinting. So I would sprint as much as I can, um rest, I mean, walk for a few seconds, and then I would sprint again. And I would try to do like 3 all out sprints, one of which is on a very steep incline, very steep road, so that my beats per minute reaches my maximum. That's the just the point of it, like reaching the maximum beats per minute in that case, and then stop, because then you really hit your joints. Um so you get, in a way, the best of both worlds. You have the zone 2 cardio as a kind of warm up in a way, and you also train, that kind of let's say deep cardio in a way, and then you have the hit. But with my you know my current training program, with some breathing squats and very very intense exercises at the gym, most of the time on my rest days I just rest, and I just take care of all the other things I have to do in my life, the paperwork and whatever. But I do walk every day. I do pay attention to have like a minimum amount of steps every day. So like my bare minimum is 6,000, yeah, and I try to aim for 8 or 10 for most days. Um, Sometimes it's a bit more, you know, sometimes it's a bit less, but yeah, some days it's like a lot of work at home uh, and the gym for 2 hours, so it's not so much walking, and I barely get my 8,000 steps. Sometimes it's like, yeah, 6, 7, but I do make sure I go out and get them. Yeah, so it's not really cardio, but it's not resistance training. And yeah, so that would be my approach. If you want to make sure you have cardio in your life, because maybe that's something you have to improve. In my case, for instance, it's a bit different, you see, because before resistance training, I was only a cardio guy. So, I already have a good basis in endurance, and it's helping me a lot at the gym, actually, I think, because I can do full body workouts, 2 hours, pretty intense, short rest periods, and my heartbeat is not the problem. My lungs are not the problem. So, yeah, I don't feel this need to incorporate it, because I would have a lack of conditioning and work capacity. I have good work capacity. So if that's not your case, then make sure to leave some place for it. and to adapt a little bit your program to that. And yeah, if I were you, I would try to incorporate both, um, long jogs and some intensity work. But it doesn't need to be a very formal interval training for like 5 minutes or even 10 minutes or things like that. As long as it's a short, intense bout of effort, then you have given, a strong signal to your body and a different signal to your body. And if you do that uh, 2 times a week, that's already quite something. So yeah. Wow. 1 hour 46 minutes. I think that's even worse than the first one. I digressed a lot, probably again, but you know, it's like at the gym. Like I said, I have good work capacity. As long as I go, I go. I see there are no other questions. Let's just check one last time, maybe on the post. No, nothing in the chat. So, it looks like I'm gonna be able to rest from my tough session at the gym today and from this great live chat. 500 subs. So, thank you very much for the questions. A lot of interesting ones, unexpected ones as well. Um, Thank you for the live stream interaction. And I will see you for a next one. Yeah, probably like very beginning of January as a kind of New Year thing. And for next week, the video, I think, I'm not certain yet, but like I said, I like to just record my videos based on what I feel like talking about. So I may change my mind, but my first idea is to make a Christmas video because it's gonna be the 23rd when I upload, and yeah, make it something like how to survive the end of the year uh, holidays. When it comes to bodybuilding and nutrition and things like that. What can you do during those few days, 1 week, 10 days maybe of a little bit of too much food and maybe too much rest. Too much rest maybe it's arguable, right? But yeah, let's say you just want to be in kind of damage control when it comes to those times of the year. I think I will make a video about that. So how can you still enjoy Christmas? Because I think it's important. However, uh, however much you like lifting and bodybuilding and all of that, you shouldn't lose the joys of times like Christmas and New Year's and all the tasty foods and stuff like that. But yeah, just how can you uh, manage that and be reasonable enough still? I think that's probably going to be the topic. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for watching. If you're watching this also as a post live stream, and yeah, maybe it's gonna happen that someone watches the whole 1 hour 49 minutes. I don't know. If that happens and you are that person, that single person on earth, I thank you very much as well, and see you on the next one. Bye.